Hi guys, so in this short video I'm going to talk about how to use the brush tool in After Effects. So I've got After Effects open. First thing I'm going to do is create a new composition. So 1920 by 1080p, that's a good size, 24 frames per second, all good. We're going to click OK. So now I've created a blank project in After Effects. So to use the brush tool, we need something to work on a background. That could be video, that could be photography, or any kind of artwork. I'm just going to create a solid background, just a solid color, and you can do that in After Effects by creating what's called a solid. So you just right click, new, solid. Now you can pick a color, and we go with the kind of blue color. Click OK, and we just have this solid color as a new layer. We can change our color or edit our color by going to Layer, Solid Settings, and that brings the box back up. We can edit the color however we want. Okay, so I have a background that I'm happy with. So now I can go to my brush tool. But even though we've got a brush tool selected, we've just got a cursor here. We don't actually have a brush tool. So how do we actually use the brush tool? Well, you actually can't use the brush tool in the main composition. So at the moment, we're in the composition. We could have many different layers here. We could have a lot going on. To use the brush tool, we have to go into the layer itself. So if we double click on our layer with our layer selected, we've gone into the layer, and you can switch using these tabs between the composition and the layer. So now that we're in the layer, we actually have a brush tool, and we can create a brush stroke. Now there are two options here on the right that really are relevant to the brush tool, and one is brushes. So you can change the kind of brush that you're using. You've got different sizes here, different hardnesses of brush. You can edit all of this afterwards, so don't worry too much. And you've got the paint tool. Once again, you can edit most of this. You can edit all of this after you've made the brush stroke. So you can change the color of the brush stroke afterwards. But let's pick a color. You want to make sure that you are on full opacity, 100% opacity, to make sure your brush isn't transparent. Let's move to 100% flow. Mode is your blending mode. That's kind of how the brush interacts with the layer below, how it blends with the layer below. We don't need to worry too much about this now. We can perhaps cover it in another video. But you can try out these. They're the same as the blending modes in Photoshop if you're familiar with Photoshop at all. I just like to keep it on normal. Don't need to worry too much about that. So this is the duration of the brush stroke. So if it's on a single frame, it'll just last for one single frame. Like if you were creating an animation in After Effects, a drawn animation, you'd probably want it on a single frame. Again, you can change the duration, so this doesn't matter too much, but if I'm on constant, my brush stroke is going to last for the whole duration of the layer. Let's create a brush stroke. Because it's set to constant, if you go into Effects, you can see that brush one, that brush stroke, it lasts for the whole duration of the layer. If I now set it to single frame, this will now just last one frame. So if I was creating a drawn animation, I might use that. Also a custom setting. So this is 8 frames. There's actually one more option. We can use right on. Now see what this does. I'm just going to write one more time. I'm going to hit play. See what this does. So actually it's automatically keyframing our stroke to right on. That's pretty cool, but we can actually get more out of this keyframing if we apply the keyframes ourselves. I'm just going to go into the brush and change the hardness, diameter. Right, let's set it to constant, and let's write once more. Okay, so now if we go into the effects and into brush and just stroke options, we have all of these options that we can change. We can actually keyframe all of these different options. Let's move our brushstroke into position. So we can change the hardness, we can change the diameter, we can change the start and end of the stroke. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keyframe the end of the stroke. And let's have it end with 100%. So it now slowly reveals. But we can also keyframe the start. So if it starts on 0, you can end it at 60, for example. So you can begin to see some of the options you can get. This can be really cool for creating a logo really quickly. Doing this frame by frame in Dragon Frame or TV Paint would take forever. We can keyframe the colour as well. Let's keyframe the colour from yellow to kind of paler colour. We could even start with the pinky purpley colour and have a keyframe to a pale yellow. You can keyframe the diameter. You can see there's a lot we can do with this. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you can see, even though this is just a test, the potential this has for animation and for motion graphics.